I've actually been to Africa, I've been to Kenya, I've seen the graves of West Indians serving in the First World War. The graves all over the world, everywhere. You wouldn't think so, but we have served everywhere you think of. And the sad thing about it, for the African side of things, the difference between how there's more commemoration around the Caribbean and Africa, going back to your question, is because a lot of Caribbeans were Christian, Africans weren't seen as Christian. A lot of Africans who died were buried in mass graves. And that's a big issue. I mean, David Olusoga made a program about this years and years ago, highlighting that there was a clear policy. If you were Christian, Say? It was a deliberate policy. If you died and you weren't a Christian, you weren't given the proper, no headstone, no nothing at all.
You was a Christian, you said?
Sorry? Seriously, that is, they're trying to rectify that, but a lot, too many people served during the First World War. Over 2 million people were involved in the First World War in Africa.
All right, so Dr. John is now going to assist me because Dr. John is like the cameraman, operator, video person, whatever. So she's going to help me out in that. We're going to show a few trailers. So if you go to a regular Odeon, View, Cineworld, etc., you sit down, you watch the advertisements, then the trailers. So this bit is about the same sort of thing, but from a black perspective. So I should explain that my name is Tony Warner, and I organize these events and from a group called Black History Walks. But also I'm the chair of the African Odysseys film program, which has been showing black history films once a month for the last 20 years. So this is, well, next year will be the 20th anniversary of it. And we normally show these sort of films at a place called the BFI in central London, but they've been a bit racist. So that's how come we're doing them in different locations. So rather than me waffling on, I'm going to show you like 2 videos about the situation at the BFI. So Dr. John, if you don't mind showing the one that is about BFI and racism. That's the first one.
"5 years since the murder of George Floyd, the 25th of May 2020, it is worth reviewing the words of the British Film Institute compared to their actions. Where was the season of Black Lives Matter films at the BFI in May 2025? Where were the talks on black British people who died in police custody? African Odysseys organised such events many times before BFI cancelled the 17-year-old monthly programme. In June 2020, Ben Roberts, CEO of BFI, said, "People of colour are underrepresented across the organisation, including in senior positions. There are no POC in the executive team, and aspects of our recruitment and decision-making processes can push out rather than lift up non-white colleagues." So I'm inviting colleagues from across the film community to commit to change, to commit to being actively anti-racist, and to collaborate with us on making our industry a better place to work. 5 years later, the BFI executive team has only one black person present, making it 88% white. The Board of Governors has no African Caribbean people on it. This elite, overwhelmingly white body has chosen to ignore 16,841 voices from the global majority who signed the petition to keep African Odysseys at the BFI and to run an assessment to survey how its absence would affect the black community. The majority audience for African Odysseys films has always been black women. They have been behind the request that the BFI run a race equality impact assessment to see how the cuts, redundancies would affect the audience. Numerous high-profile black women with decades of experience fighting for racial equality, like Dr. Margaret Busby, Britain's first black female publisher, Dame Professor Elizabeth Anyonwu, campaigner for the Mary Seacole statue, Yvonne Field OBE, founder of the Ubele Initiative, Mia Morris OBE, founder of Black History Month website, Bishop Rosemary Mallett, the first black female bishop of Croydon, and many more have expressed their support for African Odysseys. The BFI has studiously ignored them and almost 17,000 people. The BFI has breached common sense, best practice guidelines, and the public sector equality duty of the Equality Act 2010. The BFI has also twice refused to meet Professor Gus John, who wrote them a 9-page open letter in October 2024. This behavior contradicts the BFI's statement about being actively anti-racist. Professor John is an international expert on race, advises governments, helped write the 2000 equality laws, and trains institutions on how to run equality impact assessments. Why would the BFI refuse him an audience, especially considering that in October 2024, Roberts had to publicly apologize to Faisal Qureshi about race issues? The Guardian article quotes Faisal Qureshi. There is only so many times organizations can say they have learned from their mistakes, usually by inflicting trauma on ethnic minorities. That it took 5 years to get this far, only for them to go trust us again, is not a reasonable reassurance. Maybe a more significant one is a change in their leadership. The petition to save 17 years of black film history at the BFI can be found at change.org. Please
So that's the
sign
original
and share.
trailer that we used to explain the situation at BFI in a very kind of short, concise way. So that was produced back in July, and since that time, the BFI has been trying to ignore the 17,500 signatures that have been accumulated so far. So what we did is we actually got a couple of vans, right? They're called mobile billboards, and it's like a billboard on the back of a truck, and the truck drives all around London. So we got 2 of these vans to drive around like Knightsbridge, Oxford Street, Piccadilly Circus, Trafalgar Square, and we got them to park outside the BFI as well. And that's the trailer you're gonna watch now. So the trailer, next one is the, should say petition update, I think it is.
After 17 years of full houses, the British Film Institute has cancelled African Odysseys with no consultation. The monthly showcase of films from Africa and the Caribbean specialises in screening beautiful images that counter stereotypes. Over 17,000 people demand an equality impact assessment as the BFI ignores its own community guidelines and the law. Sign the petition at change.org/African Odysseys to save these monthly Black history stories at this taxpayer-funded cinema.
So that's the background to us being here in this room today, because normally we'd have this event at the BFI, which is a bit more central, has a lot more resources and a lot more kind of what do you call it, luxury, etc. But
we're not offended.
We're not. The point is, right, we're going to use what we can to tell our stories, because the whole point of African Odysseys was to tell Black stories from a Black perspective and get people to come to a taxpayer-funded institute that's supposed to represent the people that live in London. But for some reason, the BFI doesn't want to do that. So this is part of the campaign that we're going to talk about later on. But at the moment, I'm going to now introduce Professor Patrick Vernon, because Professor Patrick Vernon has been doing this stuff long before I was around. And actually, he's also produced a whole bunch of films, and African Odysseys will show his films at the BFI and have a huge crowd to watch those films. So that cancellation has caused this situation here. And we figured it would make sense to have some of the veterans who've been working BFI for the last 20 years or so to talk about how powerful filmmaking is, how important archiving is, how important it is to have a place to show films and have a conversation about these films, and what people can do to actually challenge the situation at the BFI. Now, when it comes to Professor Patrick Vernon, you could do a whole hour to introduce him. Let me just be very brief. So if you've heard about something called Mary Seacole, yeah, right. It's because of him, right? In that Patrick Vernon had a competition called 100 Great Black Britons. This is almost 15 years ago. And Mary Seacole came top. And since that time, people have now known her name because of his actions, right? Other than that, Patrick Vernon published a book called When We Ruled by a guy called Robin Walker, which is about 700 pages of ancient African history. This is another 15-year-old thing that he did, right? Other than that, Professor Patrick Vernon was also involved in exposing what's now called the Windrush scandal. Also, you might have heard about something called Windrush Day. Yeah? Well, who was responsible for Windrush Day? Do you know who that person was? Professor Patrick Vernon too, right? And he's also an expert in mental health. And also he had a website called Every Generation, which he's built up with his own money to tell Black history stories all year long, right? This is like, again, 15, 20 years ago. And then you know what? Some racist hackers smashed up the whole website. He had to build it back up again. So like I said, he could do a whole film documentary on Professor Patrick Vernon, but today he's going to talk about films he's made about World War II or veterans in general, and how important it is to kind of have an archive of film to tell our stories, because the mainstream is not doing that. Professor Vernon, over to you.
Okay, cheers. Are you going to control stuff for me?
I can do.
Cool. So if we do that one, then...
Stop this one.
It was that one first, I'll stop there. So hi everyone, good evening. Good evening everyone. I know you've had a long week, I know it's a Friday, you're probably sleeping and you want to get your Chinese, but I don't have a Chinese this time. So just want to acknowledge Tony. I've known Tony for a very long time, and he's done so much work to promote Black film, not just film, but all these walks and talks. And helicopter, didn't know you can do a helicopter as well. So Tony's given me a kind of a free rein for tonight, so just bear with me. So what I'm going to do is, I've been doing a lot of stuff around Black history now for about nearly just under 30 years. And so I'm just going to show some elements tonight of some of the stuff I've done. I can't show everything, because you'll be here for the next 24 hours, and we'll probably be kicked out by security by 9 o'clock. So what I'm going to do is show you, from a film perspective, some of the things I've done to give you a flavour of some of the work I've done, and some of the films are linked to, some of the film projects are linked to campaigns, some of them are linked to research projects I'm working on, and some of the stuff I've got still a lot of stuff in work in progress. I didn't realise until I looked at my film archives, I've got over 2,000 hours of film footage over the last 20 odd years. Stuff I've filmed myself personally. I've worked with production companies who have filmed on my behalf. I'm hoping maybe Goldsmith might help me to document some. So I've got evidence here, it's all documented. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a couple of trailers of films. The first one is a project with the BFI, in the good old days of the BFI, where I did a campaign, as you heard from Tony, 100 Great Black Britons. I did that in 2000 and launched that in 2002, 2003, I should say. But it was a counter campaign against the BBC. The BBC did a campaign called 100 Great Britons, and they had no black people at all on their list, so I did a counter campaign. The public voted for Mary Seacole, and on the back of the success of that campaign, the BFI were launching a major film festival called Black World in 2005. And Black World was they wanted to focus on black talent in front of screen. So they worked with all the top black British actors at the time that were part of the campaign. They had big seminars, big conferences. They had a film festival that lasted for about 6 to 8 weeks. There were lots of talks. There was a lot of training development sessions for up-and-coming filmmakers, the massive big programme. So I convinced the BFI, on the back of the success of 100 Great Black Britons, to do a campaign called 100 Black Screen Icons. And the whole idea of that campaign was to celebrate black talent on screen and for people to vote for the greatest film icon of all time. And you can tell me who you think it might be afterwards as well. So this is a trailer promoting the campaign of 100 Black Screen Icons. So let's throw the screen.
But if you're hard to get a go for you, and if I do, then you are through, boy. My baby, that's the end of you. So take your cue, boy. Don't say I didn't tell you true. I told you truly, if I love you, that's the end of you. Cue, boy. Don't say I didn't tell you true. I told you truly, if I love you, that's the end of you. Give me a chicken sandwich.
So John, we're here, 100 Black Screen Icons online. It's been a long journey. You've been one of my icons for many years, is how I got into film.
Okay.
It's true. Tell me what about your icons?
I was looking at the list and I thought, who should I go for? Sidney Poitier. I didn't know for Richard Klein. You know what I mean? There's just this range of people. And I think the thing is that everyone on the list, you know.
Yeah.
You've encountered them at some point.
Yeah.
You've been moved by something they've done.
Yeah.
You know? And so it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see who makes it to the top.
What's happening is Estelle, our favourite black icon is Angela Bassett, just purely for the role she played in What's Love Got to Do With It. Because she had me thinking she was Tina Turner, and that was amazing acting. That was just wow.
Now, you're here at the launch. Who do you think you're going to vote for your black screen icon, and why?
Marion John Baptiste, simply because we went to weekend arts college together, which is called WAC, and it's just lovely to know somebody that you went to the same school with and has literally become an actress, lesbian, to be recognised and admired by her peers. We watched her in her first film, and then we watched her all together on the sofa, being nominated at the Oscars. She's dripping in her bling bling diamonds, and then after her face was shown on screen, they showed Jodie Foster's, and we just couldn't believe the the awesome, reality of her becoming known within the actual Hollywood Academy.
My name is Ashley Waters, aka Ashley D. Samuel L. Jackson is an icon to me, really, because of where he's come from. He's managed to, change his life around completely. He's A-list guy, and he's a brilliant actor to top it all off. a favourite black film, Boys and Girls, I mean, that was a changing point for me. Made me understand a lot more about the street, and more importantly, kind of put my own life into perspective.
Charles Thompson, Screen Nation, Film and Television Awards, and I'm a film producer as well.
Yeah, great. I know you're at the Screen Nation Awards been going back 5 years.
Yeah.
What's inspired you to do that in terms of honouring icons and great achievements in film and TV?
Well, I think it's important that we work towards telling our own stories, rewarding and celebrating our own icons. Everyone else does it, and I think the Screen Nation Film and TV Awards is there to promote, in the first instance, Black British, because we get very little space, but Black British screen icons, which is the kind of work that we're doing, and we do that annually at the event.
Hi, I'm Jean Sarpong. I'm playing Lieutenant Uhuru from Star Trek, and I think she's fantastic because, especially, you know, when Star Trek first started, don't forget, it was America was still segregated at the time, and here was this woman on the biggest show on television, and she was not like a little maid in the corner, but she was actually the communications officer, and of course, she was involved in the first interracial kiss ever. On television, so lucky old Kirk, eh? Bet he couldn't believe his luck that day.
My name is Stephen Bourne, and I had 2 roles in this Every Generation Black Screen Icons project. I was partly assisting in the research of the 100 Black Screen Icons and compiling the names, and then sitting on the judging panel with June Giovanni and Bonnie Greer and Galen Gold and Chris Patrick and Angelina as well, and we were the ones that had to kind of whittle down the 2,000 names to 100.
Who are you going to vote for as your black screen icon?
I will be voting for Özan Palsi because she's the one who is behind the first images of Black Women Film Festival. We approached her, she said, yes, girls, go for it, I will support you, and she's been supporting us for 3 years.
So what's your plan for this year?
Well, this year's the 5th year. It's been a long and interesting road. We've come here now. We're expecting it to be broadcast on Sky last year. Premiered after a fabulous film Crash, which we honoured in the 10th year for sure. This year we're expecting Morgan Freeman, who's an iconic actor, one of the great actors of today. As well as we're going to be honouring Okosso Lucia, who you may know actually wrote the screenplay for Beloved, was in The Colour Purple, where she's a great actress, and there's many other people that work on it. So it's going to be a fantastic film.
My name is Horace OBE. I'm a filmmaker and a photographer. And I made the first black feature, Pressure, which was partly financed by the BFI, which was very helpful at the time, myself and some friends in the business.
So, how did you make the film, and what inspired you to make such a film?
What inspired me to make the film at the time, I was always into filmmaking. I was always into filmmaking from very young, before I left Trinidad, my original home. In England at the time, and what was going on with the whole problem, the race problem in England. And I was kind of politically involved in it, and I knew what was going on because I was photographing all the incidents that were taking place, from Brixton to Lapworth in the streets and homes, and down in the youth clubs and police raids and all of that. So I was part of all of that. And all of that experience encouraged me to make Pressure.
All right, let's do it. We got a movie shoot.
You're born here to have an English education, so nothing should stop you. It's our war.
You were always defending him. Always on his side.
I'm the one that gets all the worries and depression, not him.
Right, what are you going to do? Melvin, we got a problem. I got my flight to the Bahamas before coming here.
Why are the cops after him if he's a good guy?
It's behind us. It's behind us. for today. If I chase you, then you get caught. And once I got you, I go my way.
We'll do that one. Okay, I can't believe that's 20 years ago. I'm still 21, no. So the next film trailer I'm going to show, it's like an ongoing project. I've not completed it yet. I was lucky, I was made a Claw Fellow. I don't know if you know the Claw Fellowship. Claw Fellows, they appoint people in the arts, culture world, and you do a project, you do research work, you have to do a secondment. I was at the Imperial War Museum for about 6 months working with them. Now they made me a fellow at the Imperial War Museum, and so my project I looked at, I did a lot of travel in Africa, mainly in East Africa. I went to Kenya, Zanzibar, and the Middle East, and I was looking at Islam in Africa, but I did this through carved doors. So if you've been to Kenya or Zanzibar, you see all these carved doors. So I took pictures, loads of carved doors. I interviewed academics, wood carvers, a whole range of people to look at what does those doors tell you, which is linked to the Indian Ocean slave trade. Often in the UK, we focus about the transatlantic slave trade, but there was another slave trade that took place even before that and even longer along the coast of East Africa. Africans were captured from Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, far as the Congo, taken to Zanzibar, to the plantations there, and past the Ottoman Empire towards the Middle East and Turkey as well. So what I was trying to explore this concept through doors. So it's a bit arty, slightly different from what I've done before, and I'm not completed it yet, but I thought I'll just share this with you today. Okay. Okay, I haven't got time to explain the meaning of the doors, you know, so you have to bear with me when I do another project on that. So next, no, we'll do that one. Next one is, I did my very first website in 2001 called Every Generation. And at the time I did that website because I was doing a lot of work already helping people trace their family tree. I've traced my family tree from Jamaica, Midlands, and then through DNA testing to Senegal. And then I did lots of workshops working with National Archives, working with lots of community projects up and down the country, helping people trace their family tree and raising the profile, encouraging particularly Caribbean people to trace their roots. And what's interesting, as a result of the Windrush scandal, I'll roll the clock forward, people now want to look at their roots in the Caribbean and Africa because, again, we are questioning about our identity, our belonging, why we're here, and all that kind of stuff as well. So I was doing this work about family history, family genealogy, and what I'm showing you is a trailer, still work in progress, of part of my journey doing the research work, going from Gambia to Senegal and trying to explore my family history as part of the work I was doing around Every Generation. Yes.
Have you ever looked in a face of age? All in your ears to what every man had to say.
Six to the back.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome is a theory that is advanced, which looks at the impact of multi-generational trauma, transgenerational trauma, on Africa.
Child is born to live within the master plan. Boy grows up, leaves his home to be a man. Vintage sheets of wine for the wine. Now, when I first started going to a genealogy library and started picking up books, and some of my ancestors were from the state of South Carolina, and I would pick up books on cemeteries in South Carolina, wills, estates of South Carolina, and I wouldn't see my ancestors in
I started Jamaica Hymn, and that was the first. On the front cover, there's a picture of a number of air personnel and myself at the side of a Lancaster bomber. We had just come back from Germany. I was never air crew, as I said before. I was ground staff.
That it's their hidden history of black people that ought to be revealed. Not just those of us who have got high-profile names contemporaneously, but those who have struggled, often without reward, and often without recognition. I put it to you that Frank Critchlow is a great Black Briton.
My name is Horace Obe. I'm a filmmaker and a photographer. And I made the first black feature, Pressure, which was partly financed by the BFI.
Children, even now, you ask them where their grandmother came from, and their grandmother might be alive even today, and they would say to you, as happened to me once, I don't know. The West Indies, I think, we're at that stage now where, at a critical moment in time where if we are not passing on the story of Black Britons, if we're not passing on those stories now, to our young people, they will forget our generation and the generation that came that made it all possible for them.
Oh, let's repeat it again. Okay.
Have you ever looked
So that was like a snippet of some of the stuff I've done over the years around some of the projects. And what I'm going to be showing you, what I'm going to show you is a film project. So you probably saw Eddie Martin Noble. I made a film about his life called A Charmed Life. I made that film in 2008, around about the time of the 60th anniversary of Windrush. And Eddie was like a mentor figure. It was like a grandfather figure. And the film itself actually had helped me start the campaign for National Windrush Day. Sam King, as some of you would know, founded Windrush Day back in the 1980s. But him and our photographer Windrush Foundation, they organised events in South London. But when I saw what was not happening around the 60th anniversary, nothing at all, I thought there should be a national camp, there should be a public holiday. So when I made the film, I got approached by the Guardian newspaper, wrote an article, so why can't we have National Windrush Day? And people said, that's a fantastic idea. So we campaigned for years for a National Windrush Day. We used to have a 2-minute silence in Windrush Square in Brixton. We had letters in the Times, early day motions in Parliament. I was lobbying all the politicians I knew, but there was no interest until we had the Windrush scandal in 2018, and when the government realised how they mistreated particularly Caribbean people, African people. Theresa May apologised, and that's why we got that recognition around Windrush Day. But as you can see, I've been doing this work for 20-odd years before, before Windrush became fashionable. So the film, I made a film about Eddie Martin Noble. I only do special screenings every 3 or 4 years of the film. I'm not doing it tonight, I'm going to show another film instead. But I've actually shown the film twice at the BFI, and that is why this campaign that Tony's doing is really important, because that gave the opportunity and the platform to show a film in central London, in a nice venue, to us to reclaim that space for us to show our films. It's really important as well. And that's why I support the campaigns Tony doing. Actually, if I can remember, Tony, you actually approached me, Patrick, what should I do? Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you can talk anyway. Yeah, so anyway, but it's not over. It's not over. One thing I learned about campaign activism: sometimes you have a short campaign that might last for a few months, and sometimes you have a long campaign that lasts for years. I hope it won't last that long, but we have to keep pushing. So sign the petition, let people know. Contact your MPs. Let's put pressure on the BFI. The BFI is really disappointed because they have done some fantastic stuff over the years. And I don't know why. They actually tried to. I don't know if you know, Tony. They actually approached me and tried to. That's what happens when you're doing a campaign. Because they saw people's signatures on the petition, and they were approaching people privately. You know what? Why are you getting involved in this? Just come over here.
What?
No. It doesn't work that way. So anyway, I'm still supporting and standing firm with Tony. So what I'm going to show you now, I made this film called A Charmed Life, which I did lots of screenings around the UK, film festivals internationally. And then I showed the film in Haringey. And then Haringey Council approached me and said, this is fantastic, Patrick. Can you do a project to work with young people so they understand the history of remembrance and the black contribution to world wars? And I said, why not? And I thought, let me think, what's the best way of doing that? And so I decided that I would, through the contacts and connections I had, that it'd be great to get some veterans and ex-service personnel, men and women, to share their experiences of war and conflict. So we constructed a project called Speaking Now to Standing Firm, and we worked with Haringey Library Services, and we worked with a school in Tottenham, Alexander Park School, and we recruited young people, and we trained them. I worked with the production company Infatuation, which we worked with over a number of years. We trained the young people to do filming. We worked with young people to do interviews. I kind of wrote the script. I recruited all the veterans to be part of the project, or convinced them. Some of them had to convince hard. Because some veterans don't want to go and share their stories because either they feel that people won't listen to them, or they don't feel they have the permission to share their stories. It's different now. So this project was done in 2010, basically. So we made this film. It's about 40 minutes long, and you will see young people interviewing veterans from Second World War to Korean War, to Northern Ireland, the first invasion in Iraq, Kuwait, to Afghanistan. So you'll see, and it'd be interesting what you think, what young people think about war and conflict as well. And I really enjoyed doing this project. It was hard work, but I think the young people really enjoyed it as well. These young people now, how old would they be? They're probably in their mid-20s now, or, etc. So it's called Speaking Out, and it's called Speaking Out and Standing Firm, because what was quite clear, speaking to the veterans and their experiences, they even though they were ex-civilian, they were civilians like ourselves now, they were speaking out and they were firm. They still had that military presence and routine and stature and power as well. And I want to, after I show the film, there's one or two people I want to invite to share their perspectives on that, because this film is linked to Remembrance Sunday. And this is really important. I mean, there's going to be lots of events happening up and down the country to share and to reflect on honour and remembrance. I was very lucky a few weeks ago to go on a coach trip where 2 coaches left South London. We went to France and Belgium to pay our respects to those men, particularly men who served in the First World War and lost their lives, or were part of the British West Indies Regiment. But we'll talk a bit later about that. So enjoy the film and just think of the young people. Just imagine if you're a 15-year-old interviewing veterans and what you're going through as well, yeah? Okay.
Over the last few hundred years, war and conflict has shaped modern Britain. Men and women have dedicated their lives and have created the freedom, the liberty and choice that we take for granted today. This is reflected in monuments, statues, buildings and important occasions such as Remembrance Sunday, Armed Forces Day. However, is this the true story of war and conflict, or is there a new narrative which reflects the true story of Britain today? Well, the association started approximately 33 years ago by a group of ex-World War II veterans, which came back to these shores and encountered a whole host of issues that they had to, or challenges that they had to address. So this was the vehicle which they established. First of all, the organization was established in people's houses. That's where they had their meetings and so forth. And collectively, they would deal with issues regarding one another, from home, financial, job, etc., training, re-equipping for the workforce as it was then. And as you're aware, it was very hard for jobs, let alone being a black person seeking a job. I don't think the other association and network actually tackles the issues that is specific to black servicemen. Our issues are slightly different in terms of all the work and anecdotal evidence that there is, in terms of the rejection that we have from our own community for joining the other side. To the other side, going nigger bashing, So we're caught between a hard rock place and the deep blue sea. Hence the reason why we all came together. We had a common denominator. Well, this Remembrance Sunday was very uncomfortable for us. As you would have witnessed from the television, there wasn't a black person on the screen at all. Notwithstanding that over 1 million or 1 million black people signed up for the motherland in the wars, notwithstanding the 1.4 million that was given to the motherland interest-free, and notwithstanding all the other produce, cotton, rum, etc., some country provided or purchased tanks or squadron of plane or a ship for the motherland. And it wasn't, I don't think it was a fair reflection on us that on this Remembrance Sunday you didn't see a black face at all. This film is an opportunity for young people to interview, meet and learn from veterans, ex-servicemen and women about why they joined the armed forces, the contribution that they have made and the legacy of the black contribution today in modern war and conflict. Thank you for your school being involved in the project called Speaking Out, Standing Firm. What we've been doing, we've been interviewing ex-servicemen and women and veterans from the Second World War up to Iraq, talking about their experiences, why they joined the armed forces, what they learned by being in the armed forces, and what lessons can they share with young people today. Today, you're going to be interviewing two special ladies. Both of them served in the Second World War, and they came from the Caribbean, and they're both in their 80s, so they've got lots of experiences and to tell all of you as well.
My name is Elizabeth, and I'm 25, I might be the oldest, and my boyfriend is going to Afghanistan next week.
Really? So he's going to serve in Afghanistan?
Yes,
okay.
It's the second time.
He's doing a second tour? Yes. Okay then.
Hi, I'm Jess, I'm 17. My granddad fought in World War II.
Hi, I'm Anna, and my granddad was a war correspondent in Vietnam.
Oh really? Okay, do you want a paper?
It was an Australian one.
Okay.
I'm Becky. My grandma was part of the women at home in Britain during World War II, working in the factories.
Well, I joined the army in 1944 in my hometown and traveled to Jamaica, which was the headquarters of the army then, and spent 2 weeks there being trained and then came on to England, and I served in England from June 1944 to 1947.
Where do you come from originally?
Well, it was called British Honduras in my time, and when it became independent in 1981, it is now called Belize.
Why did you volunteer for World War II?
I wanted to travel, and we didn't have many opportunities in those days like the youngsters have today. And that was the only opportunity I had, and I thought, I'm going to have it, come what may. And so I applied, and I was accepted, and that's how it happened.
What was it like as a woman serving in the armed forces?
Wonderful. It's the best experience I've ever had, and I would do it all over again. We were treated well. Our officers looked after us like our mothers, and life was a bit cold, I must say, because having come from the top, but we didn't mind that at all. At least I didn't, and many of my friends didn't. And every step I made in the army was fantastic.
So you didn't experience any racism or sexism?
Well, at that time, all the people in England wanted was to win the war. So colour didn't come into it. We were all fighting for the same thing, to win the war. And the English people opened their home stores. We were invited out for dinners, for teas, no problems at all. But I think there were problems with the American forces, but it didn't hinder us where we were.
Did your experiences in the armed forces help you as a teacher?
No, it didn't, because I had that before I came to England. I was a pupil teacher. My family were all teachers, and that helped me to make up my mind.
And what did you do?
Well, I taught physical education, and as a matter of fact, when you're a teacher in my home, you're taught all subjects, right? And then when I came over here, and it was the same situation. Of course, when I became a head, I didn't teach at all. But my love was physical education and dancing. And that's what I used to inspire the children with.
What sort of impact did it have on your family life? Were you still in contact with family while you were part of them?
Well, they warned me when I was leaving that I might never see England. The ship might be torpedoed. They would never see me again. But they wouldn't stand in my way and wish me the very best. My father served in the First World War, but I didn't know of that until when I decided I wanted to join, and he told me. He served in Mesopotamia, in Egypt, and he said, go for it. But I didn't know this. I had no idea he had been in the army. And he joined the army at the same age as I did, and he was 20.
Did you come to England during the Blitz?
Oh, I experienced that quite a lot. I was walking down the road one day, and I saw people running. This was in Guildford, and we knew that this was happening, but it never stayed with us. You know, we just went about our business every day. And somebody said to me, "Run, run!" I said, "Why?" She said, "There is a bomb coming." So we just ran for shelter. I wasn't frightened. It's afterwards, you know, when you realize what could have happened. It didn't drop where we were, so we were lucky. But people were killed on that day. These are my release papers when I left the army to go to college. And that's my medical card as well.
What about the training?
Pardon?
The training, the military training, is that too hard for a woman compared
The training? Yes. That was tough. But we did it. We did it. We used to get up to mischief. Sometimes we used to hide. You know, take it in turn to hide, not to go to parade, because we used to wear shorts for sports in the snow. Crazy. We used to have to walk miles, walk back. But it was all done with love.
Well, I was in Jamaica, and after I left school, I did a stenographer's course.
And then the atheists came out and I said, oh, I'd like to join them, you know. So I went up, I was in the office, you know, being a stenographer. And then suddenly the war was, you know, going. They wanted new people to come over here, I mean, trained people, to relieve the men who were going to the second front, if you knew about the war, World War II.
Can you tell us a little bit about the training that you had?
Oh, the training was good.
How
yes.
long did it last?
Well, we trained in Jamaica first, you know, at Up Park Camp, which was pretty marching and saluting and all that, what you salute to. And then at the Queen's Camp in Guildford, we had another training. And what did you want to do? So I said, I wanted to do a stenographer's course. I was a stenographer, I wanted to do something in that line. So they sent us to Edinburgh.
I know my friend's dad was a Royal Marine.
A Royal Marine, okay.
And he retired like, I think it was 2 years ago.
Yes.
But he said that his dad, like, he went to Iraq, he fought in Iraq.
Yes.
He said that he enjoyed it and he's come back now.
Yes.
He said it was good.
Okay, yes.
My granddad was a tailor for the army, because he was only young when the war was happening. He was only about 16 or 17, and I know he was just a tailor.
Oh, really?
Like, doing all the sewing and that sort of stuff.
Okay, do you know where he was doing that?
I think it was in Croydon.
On Croydon, okay.
Yeah, I think that's where it was. Yeah, it wasn't anywhere exotic or anything.
Served in the army for 6 years. One of the reasons I joined the army was in cadets as a youngster at school, and a lot of my friends decided we were then joined the army. I joined for 6 years. I went to Germany, trained in England, went to Germany 2 years, and I left from there. I went to Borneo, Brunei, 51 Gurkha Brigade headquarters. Left there, and then I went to Kenya for 6 weeks. Came up from Kenya and I went down to Cyprus next for the terrorists there, because of working in the ammunition bomb disposal team. And then 3 months in Cyprus. Leave there, back to Germany again for another year. Leave Germany, then we had to go back to Singapore for another 6 weeks. So that was my experience in the army. My 6 years was finished in that time. Pretty good, enjoyed it.
Well, I joined in 1988. I was 18 and I served 12 years in the RAF. I was sort of one of these strange people. I changed trades whilst I was when I was in trade training. I joined up to be a technical engineer in radar, and then ended up being a propulsions mechanic in aircraft, which is sort of like totally contrasting different trades.
But particularly the contribution, black contribution with Africa, Caribbean, and we were at the WESA yesterday, and we spoke to the chair, and he was actually not happy with this year's Remembrance Sunday service, because he said that they were there and the TV coverage didn't even have a spotlight on any black servicemen or women. So, and he feels that the history is still not being recognised.
There's so much that hasn't been published. So much.
Yes.
Unbelievably. It's like, I mean, the term Black Ops comes from a whole group of black people that were just sent to go and do things. They weren't expecting them to come back. We literally sent them on these missions, which were one-offs. So
Yes.
they expected them to die and they'd always come back.
Yes.
They couldn't understand it.
Right, yes.
So Black Ops is quite a highly, prevalent term to be used.
Is there something unique and distinctive being in the armed forces compared to anybody else? Is there something special or unique or distinctive? Or is this...
The two main things, one is camaraderie. It's second to none. I know it sounds really weird because there's people that you wouldn't even look at, talk to, or anything, but you trust them with your life, and you don't have that sort of sense of camaraderie here. I know it sounds it's almost like a gang sort of thing, but it is far from that. I mean, these are the people that think, oh God, yeah, you wouldn't even think twice. I mean, this is where the term, you would take a bullet for somebody because it's instinctual. it's without thinking. You know, it's basically you would do it because it's not so much your duty, but you know for well that that person, you know what I'm saying, and he'd do it for you without even thinking.
Obviously, we're here because of war veterans and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So would you just like to start off by telling us where you served and what for?
I have served in the United States Air Force. I went in as a lieutenant when I was nearly 18 years of age, and I came out some 5.5, 6 years later as a captain. I must have been doing something right, because although we have heard the experiences of others, I still have this hairstyle. Notice I have my hat on. Yeah, I take my hat off to all and sundry. With this hairstyle and this permanent suntan, and what have you, getting promotions like that don't come easily. So I worked hard for it. I'm proud that people have indeed, of course, respected me.
Well, as you may have heard, I was the first black man here in Tottenham. I came here in 1950, the 8th of April. And when I came here, they put it in the Tottenham Post. If anybody knows anything against this man, I still got that paper in the please come forward. Unfortunately, nobody came forward, and I was allowed to reside in the borough.
I joined in 1971, and I came out after 7 years and 99 days. I joined primarily for a certain amount of discipline and to see what trade I would get. But I enjoyed it so much. I was a green jacket, so I enjoyed it so much with the rough and tumble and all the rest of it. I just stayed there, and all the coaxing I got from my family to go and do this, and because primarily a lot of us are in the bar, or attorney at law in America and Jamaica, and we have a barrister and a solicitor in this country. But that's where the family is. Predominantly everybody's in the legal service. I decided not to do that. So I joined the forces at the certain tongues of individuals in my family, and it didn't go down too well, but I did, and I have no regrets for it. My experience, I had good experience, I had bad experience. Some of the experiences goes back to my original, we were involved when, simple as that, and we were all wearing the Queen.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. Can you push it along? Or, is that kind of finished then, or I've got another one. If you think that'll make a difference.
Well, hopefully we can just finish this one.
Yeah. You're gonna try and you're gonna push it forward. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to really, to be honest.
Oh, that's.
Can we push it forward? No, we cannot.
I've not played for a little while, I can tell.
Okay. All right. I wonder if I should take the opportunity to say something about myself since everybody's talking.
Sorry?
I wonder if I should talk about my classes and what I teach, because I actually do have a full historian's career.
I think there's about another 5 minutes left, actually. It's coming towards the end.
Okay.
So you might have to skip that interview with Vince. If you skip it to next, or is it stuck?
Dun, 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 dun. Doesn't work it.
So it's not working. Is it stuck then? Oh. I've just pushed it a bit more to the next bit because it's coming. Unless you want to try another one, I've got another one here.
It's 8 o'clock. We can. I don't think it's going to play. We can do a Q&A.
Sorry?
I said we can go straight to Q&A. We don't have to play another one, unless you particularly want to.
Try this one.
Should we try this one more time? Just give this one
No, because I think it's not going to happen. So if you just try that one, see if what happens there. If just bear with us, technical hitch there. Bear with us, please.
I didn't realise you had another copy of it.
Sorry?
I didn't realise you had another copy of it. I thought you
Oh, no, I was brought back up just in case. Because just...
Well, when you get your intern, you can make it all digital.
Yeah,
so when you get your intern, make it all digital.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just the work to do it as well. I got VHS, I got to make it digital as well.
You can send that stuff away now.
I can do what?
Send that stuff away.
I see.
Send it away?
Yeah.
Okay. And they'll do it for you? Yeah. Oh, okay. I've got a bunch.
I think the army has helped us all.
I'm just going to rewind it a little bit.
Okay.
We didn't hear the lady's question. The girl's question.
Okay.
And you were doing it as well, but in the services.
Do you think diversity is important?
I think so. I think the army has helped us all to understand each other, regardless of what race or culture you come from. And that has broadened our lives quite a bit. Because when I came to England, and we were out and about, people would come up to us and say, we used to wear a country and horse sleeve. And they would say, where is that? You know, they all thought that we all came from Africa. They didn't know much about the Caribbean. So we taught them a lot about that. But it's just curiosity, you know, no hatred or anything like that. And education for them as well as for us.
I was homeless for 3 years, and on leaving, not leaving totally the military. I was homeless for 3 years because, you know, went through that transition. Because they don't tell you the stuff that you're going to go through. And the thing is with people I met along the way, they found that statistically about 80% of the people that are homeless in London are ex-military.
Yes.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Yes.
I've read that.
Yes.
And do young people appreciate the work that you do, and more importantly, the knowledge, the history of the ex-servicemen and women?
Yes, they do. They really do appreciate it. They're sad to be told that we didn't participate, but they're very proud when they see that, yes, you know, and if you see some of the images behind me, you know, they can say, yeah, we were there, and, you know, our people did this and we did that. So from that aspect, it's very good, but it has to be part of the curriculum. I know more about Christopher Columbus than I do about our own history, and that's got to be correct. If it wasn't for us going out and finding out about it, we would never be informed, so that has to be addressed. In terms of our young people, for our young people to feel stimulated and to feel equality, they must believe and they must see black people in roles of authority. You know, it's pointless people saying, oh, we've got quota system of 10 or 20% of us, but we're all cleaners or cooks. That's got to, you know, go along the wayside. They have to see chairman, chief executive, colonels, black people in those positions, for them to be stimulated and for them to actually attempt to gain that level themselves.
I'll say, the way the British Army really helped it helped me to be more communicating with people, because you meet people from different places, different accents, different languages, different countries.
Did you said that you were brought up in Zimbabwe?
Yes.
Did you leave the country to come here and
join the army? I didn't really come to join the army intentionally, but I came to meet my mum. My mum was working here while I was still in school back home, so when I finished school I had to come join her. But when I joined there, I only got a visiting visa, so the only means for me to get a permanent stay was to join the army, which they can give you an indefinite stay after 3 years serving in the forces. And then I find joining the army being the best place for me to get my visa and my stay so I can live with my family. Being in the army, I learned quite a lot of things, which is the highs and lows as well. I'll bring this situation in Iraq. I was involved in a firefight. It was a team of us, 9 of us, were given a mission to go rescue the Marines. My outstanding, the sergeant who was in charge, really noticed that I worked hard that day, because lives could have lost, because our rescues life were lost when they tried to rescue us. And then me and the sergeant here were nominated to get bravery medals from the Queen. That was 2004 December. But unfortunately, to know that I couldn't get my medal, for some reason I wasn't explained. Right now I'm trying to push it through lawyers and people, trying to find out why my medal wasn't brought to me. I wasn't told that to get my medal. But the reason what they told me was I wasn't really supposed to be told that I was supposed to get a medal. But because I was working with someone, they say, I'll tell you, they wrote me a letter. Yeah, because they're supposed to say, they wrote me a letter saying soldiers are not meant to know if they're getting VCs. But I was told, I went in front of the commanding officer and everyone, and they said I was supposed to get a medal. Even if my commanding officer told me that I'm going to get a medal, that's supposed to happen, that's what's going to happen. But in the end, so what the system done to the medal, I don't know. That's what I need to find out. And then to me, I take it as that discrimination, because Sergeant Terry Bryan got his medal, and he still asked me if I got my medal.
And he's born in England.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a record of it?
Yeah, I've got a record in it.
Have you written to the record of it?
Yeah, I've found them. They say
have you written to them?
Yeah, I've written to them. I've got solicitors trying to look into their case now.
What about the conflicts that we have so far from Iraq and Afghanistan? What do you think about that?
I do hear about it, and
if you were now 20, would you volunteer for the
as
army?
I said, I would join if I were 20 again. But the cause they're fighting for, what we were fighting for in the 40s was Hitler's dominance. But now it's a different thing, it's a different story. I would have to give that some thought.
Would you encourage women to enroll for the army?
Yes, of course. You learn a lot. You learn a lot in it. You learn a lot of self-discipline. You learn a lot of mixing. So many things you learn which you wouldn't normally learn in your home, because you're mixing with lots of different people and doing lots of different things. I think it would be a good experience for the children.
So what are the key lessons you think we can learn about conflict from 60 years ago to now? What are the key lessons, if any?
I think war is quite a horrible thing, and it causes a lot of conflict, but they seem to get the best out of it. They seem to sort of mix with different people, a very diverse sort of group of people, and they sort of took the best and the most glamorous parts of the war, the actual war. So.
I thought, it changed the world, didn't it, World War II, and not just that, and they were sort of the example of how it transformed the globe, how it changed. Everybody was in their sort of own little places in the world, in their own little pockets, and sort of mashed them up all together in one area fighting against a common enemy.
Has anyone thought about the idea now? Maybe I might think about the idea of joining the armed forces. Has that crossed your mind?
And I think there's other ways to fight instead of joining the army.
And she said she loves caring for people, and that's why she done it, because she wanted to care for people and she wanted to nurse them and teach them. But you can still do that now in your life without being a part of the army. You can still be a teacher, you can still, but back then the possibilities weren't that easy. It wasn't that easy to travel, it wasn't that easy. So they used army and the war to do that.
Yeah.
And now you can do it now. Now, where we live, we can do all of that.
Yes. So EasyJet. No
Well,
I think on that note, I think we'll call today. Really fantastic. You've done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Never missing a beat, yeah. Boy, was it neat, yeah. I just knew she was gonna leave me when she did the beat with me. Never missing a beat, yeah. Boy, was it neat, yeah. The girl's a freak, the girl never misses a beat, yeah. I just knew she was gonna leave me when she did the beat with me. It didn't work, no. It wasn't okay no more.
We've got some time now.
Oh, okay, brilliant. So, hope you enjoyed that. I've not watched it for years, actually. Before we go into Q&A, I just want to acknowledge one or two people in the audience. Beulah. So Beulah, so I mentioned I was on this trip a couple of weeks ago, organised by Paul Chambers and colleagues from the British West Indies Regiment Foundation. And Beulah talked about, she's done a lot of research work about her Uncle Robert, who served in the First World War. Do you want to just say a few words? And she's got a book to sell later. But just Beulah, do you want to say something? A few words?
Yes, it was mentioned earlier about we should write our own history. And when I found out that my uncle, and it's my uncle, I'm not a fossil, it was my uncle who served in the First World War, not my grand-uncle or great-uncle. It was my mother's brother. And she used to talk about every year. And I actually didn't believe her at first because I never saw any representation in any of the films or taught anything in school about black people serving in any of the wars. So a few years ago, we happened to find out that my mother wasn't making it all up. You know, I used to be sort of every year on Remembrance Sunday, she'd mention my poor brother dead in the First World War, and I had to say, oh yeah. You know, I'm sure that's not true. But anyway, we got to find out through my daughter here, and she managed to find documentary evidence that my uncle did exist. I should explain that my uncle was born in 1894, and he was the eldest of my mother's siblings. And she was born in 1914, so she was 20 years younger than him. And, you know, he's my uncle, not my great uncle. So we got to find out that he did exist, and we managed to trace where he was buried. And about 10 years ago, actually, nearly to the day, we actually went to visit his resting place in Ypres. And then, was it about nearly 2 weeks ago, there was another pilgrimage. Patrick was there, myself, with the British West Indies Regiment Heritage Trust. And we revisited his resting place. Because I think it's so important that knowledge of people like him are recognized. I wrote a book, published about a couple of years ago, about how we got to find out about Uncle Robert. And included in the book are photographs and documentary evidence to prove that, you know, he did exist and where he is and so on.
That's fantastic. And Beulah's going to be around so you can promote the book. And there's a representative from the British West Indies Regiment Foundation. Give them a round of applause. You're going to kill me now. It's a Friday and my name's gone. Do you want to say a few words?
Yes, my name is Ozzy, or better known as Elaine Osborne, and I'm a veteran. And the lady in the film, Norma Best, is on her shoulders that I stand today. I joined 71, started I did 23 years service. This organisation that Patrick talks about, we go every year to Belgium, France, looking for graves of men, not many women like Patrick said, who died during the First World War. And for any Jamaicans here, we actually found Michael Manley's family last year, and his brother Roy, he died during the First World War. The organisation I represent, same as Patrick, that's what we do. We work very closely with the War Grave Commissions, and we go in search of young men, primarily, who never came home. And there were some as young as 14 years old. So yes, that's what we do. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. So, and that's what I do. I had the privilege of making that film with the young people. And some of the veterans have passed on since then. So Esther, she passed on. Bill Guy, Sheikh Thompson. I've done about Norma. Have you heard anything about Norma?
No, I think she's still living.
Yeah.
There is one other lady, the oldest serving black Jamaican female from the Second World War, but she lived in Barbados, a woman called Ina.
Yeah.
Collymore Stockwood.
Yes.
But I don't know, I don't think Norma has died yet. I think she's still living.
Yeah, I've tried to reach out. Me and Stephen Bourne, Stephen Bourne's a historian. Yeah. We've been trying to work out where, and the number I had of Norma, I don't know if she's in a care home or but it'd be nice to know. But I'm so glad that I was able to capture their stories in that way. Especially the best bit for me was Esther and Norma, because I've got some other takes from the interviews, but they were laughing, joking. The young girl, remember, most of the film was done by the young people. We did the editing, but the young people filmed it. That's why you saw some dodgy camera work going on. But that was young people. They were just learning and stuff like that. But the conversations that the young women had with Esther and Norma was brilliant. It was just the guys were a bit more problematical because they were all blowing their egos, you know what I mean, like, you know, they were bragging, you wouldn't see it there, but all of them was saying, oh, you know, I served a bit longer than you and that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to go there right now. But the conversations with the young women was beautiful, and that intergenerational dialogue was just amazing to see that magic. You know, you can't see the magic in that film, but I was there, and it was just sort of beautiful. And we don't do enough of that stuff. We don't have that dialogue, the conversations, the whole stuff around remembrance. The point that was made by Vince McBean, former chair of the West Indian Civilisations Post Association, was a valid point. Bernie Grant had, in the late 1990s, wrote a letter to the Ministry of Defence, complaining on behalf of the West Indian service personnel. They weren't even allowed to be a part of the processions until about 20 years ago. And Bernie Grant had to wrote and made a formal complaint, and they had to address that. So we've still got more work to do around the history recognition. That's why I'm doing all this stuff. I've got even more. I mean, since making that project, I've actually interviewed. I did some more interviews of veterans, which I've got somehow pulled together. I went to the care home in Jamaica, where a lot of veterans, well, some of them have passed on now, but I went there about 10, 12 years ago. I've interviewed African veterans served in the Second World War. One particular person served in Burma, and people don't talk about what happened in Burma. That was the most bloodiest war and conflict, basically. Nearly 200,000 Africans went to Burma. So I was able to interview one veteran as well. So really, I think showing this film, being on that trip recently, reminds me why we have to document our history. All of you, I mean, and it's linked to our family history, so that's why it's great Beulah's here, because she shared her story. I found out, you know, probably about several years ago, that on my dad's side of the family, his uncle served in the First World War. So we have to, if you do your research work on your family history, I'm thinking definitely in Caribbean and African households, at least one every 10 family member will have someone served in the past of wars and conflicts, but we don't know that. That's why we have to do the research work and interrogate and to explore as well. So I don't know if you've got any questions at all in all the things I've shown. I've shown different film bits, aspects of my work, and yeah, so.
Not so much a question, but following on from the point that you made, because my father was Ghanaian, and I found it interesting that this year, Rhys Jones, I don't know if anybody saw it, showed his father's story, being a member of the Gold Coast Regiment in Burma.
Yeah.
And I remember being told by my family that it wasn't till he made this programme and he interviewed veterans who knew his father that Ghana would honour these men who had been, forgotten.
Yes.
So I'm just making the point that really, as you said, that they're hidden histories in a sense.
Yeah.
And I thought that was significant, that it took him to make the programme, go to Ghana, interview these veterans.
Yeah.
And they got a dinner and all the other things that, of course, they've been forgotten.
Yeah.
You know, so you're right to say these stories need to be told.
Yeah. And there's some more stories to be told. So Betty at the back, Betty's from the NEU, that NEU Teachers and it was really great because a couple of weeks ago you acknowledged lots of educators that we've worked with you for years. So Betty?
That's what I was going to ask you. That film needs to be in the schools. Is there any way you're going to get it through the local authorities? Because our children need to be educated. You know, that day is coming up soon. We're all going to watch it on TV. They need to be aware that we were there.
Yeah.
We've been there from ever since, from Roman times.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back that far, you know.
Yeah.
So how are you, or is it?
Well, when I did the project, so we produced loads of the DVDs. We gave everyone that was involved in the project had it. We gave a consignment of about 100, 200 in Haringey Library, and they gave it to schools and projects in Haringey because they funded it basically. So So one of the things that I'm thinking about is it has to be digitised, as you noticed, and I think one of the, I need to probably sometime put on a secure website so people can access that. And I've got other stuff. This is just I've got loads of other stuff. The thing's right. If you notice, if you aware of what I do, I'm involved in so many things. I'm involved in health, public health, mental health, Black history, activism around Windrush. Some stuff around. I'm involved in so many things. I can't keep. So I need time to be still for about 6 months and just look at stuff and try and figure the best way to get it out there. One of the things I'm doing, I'm pro-chancellor at Wolverhampton University. I'm working with the university, and I'm going to be donating about 3,000 of my books. They're going to create a special reference library for me as well. So I'm hoping that my books, some of my materials will be there, but I've just been made an offer, a potential offer for Goldsmith to work with me and digitize some of my stuff. So who knows?
No, the catalogue.
Oh, okay. These are my witnesses. These are my witnesses. And some film too. No, joking.
No,
I'm just teasing.
Please remind me and hold them to account.
Yeah.
There was a hand at the back.
Okay.
I think it's phrase your voice as well, so people can hear.
I'm going to explore below the vibe a little bit. What films have we done any film on what's happened to our veterans that already gone through the army and the things that they went through? Have you done after they left?
What's the sorry? Repeat. Sorry.
Have you done any? Have you created a film on what happened to our people after they left the army? The things that they went through?
Well, funny you mention that.
Sorry to be being a downer.
So I've actually interviewed some veteran. There was one particular ex-service woman. She actually wrote a memoirs about how she was bullied in the armed forces and how she left and had the impact on her mental health. Eric, one of the ex-service people talked to Errol. I've not seen him for years actually, but he talked about openly in great detail, much more than what you heard, about him being homeless. And that data he quoted is true. There were a lot of ex-service personnel who worked in the armed forces are homeless. That is a big issue that's not talked a lot about, basically. And then when you saw right towards the end of the film, you saw those different images from covers of newspapers. There were two guys living in Hackney, in the kind of like cottages in Hackney, where it's managed by a charity, a small housing association, and they were there's an issue around immigration status and serving the armed forces. They've changed the rules now around immigration status. So you heard from one guy, Stephen, who joined his mother, joined the army, and served his time, and he got permanent leave to stay. They're actually scrapping that now completely. They're all stopping that now. So once you do your time, you have to go back to the country they came from. That's what's happening right now. So these two guys who joined his mother, joined the army, and served his time, and he got permanent leave to stay. They're actually scrapping that now completely. They're all stopping that now. So once you do your time, you have to go back to the country they came from. That's what's happening right now. So these two guys, I saw an image of them outside. They were having problems with their status. They were having problems with they were suffering post-traumatic stress and stuff like that. And they were being evicted at the same time. And that was a big story. Definitely when I was making the film as well. So and I think there's more stuff. I mean, I think there's even more stuff. I mean, obviously there's lots of support stuff. There's meant to be an Armed Forces Covenant, which was passed by over 10 years ago. And the Armed Forces Covenant is that if you've left the Armed Forces, you are guaranteed access, or quicker access, compared to civilians, around healthcare, mental health support, and housing support. But I don't know how effective that covenant is. I don't know if whether you know about that. Yeah. It doesn't happen. You heard that?
Like the gentleman said, 80% of the people you see on the London Bridge showing the big issue are ex-service.
I want you to do a film this just to expose that.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone's actually done. I'm not seeing
Patrick's not the only filmmaker that could do that.
No, that's what I say. I think then maybe. So your call. If you've got, you got a camera, interview people. There are people that you can interview who would probably go into great detail, and you can explore their journeys, because it's travesty. There really is. It's travesty for any ex-service personnel, but I think it's even worse if you're from a black or racialised background. That's just my perspective. Anyway.
So how long ago was that film then?
So I did that in 2010. So 15 years ago. It's a long time, 15 years. I can't believe it. I've not seen it for years, actually.
So do you have like a reunion, a yearly reunion of all the black and ethnic minority?
No, that was a one-off project.
No, but is there one? Is there one? Like everybody meets up as a year? Organisation?
Yeah, absolutely. When I joined the army in 1971, my regiment, we have an association. We have local branches within the organ all over the country, and we meet every 3 months.
Okay, still.
But then there are very few black in London organisation for black ex-servicemen and women.
Just generally.
Yeah.
Also, is there going to be an update of that? Because I think if it was, if my maths is right, 15 years ago, just something to catch young people. You know, like they're into their TikTok and their Instagram, just to get it, maybe short bits of the film that stands out to catch their imagination.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a website which has a trailer of some of that on there, but I've been so busy with other stuff, to be quite honest. You know, to me, and I mean, I'm not the only filmmaker in town, and there's been other stuff that's been made since then. But I think the issue, for me, what I see now is there are more and more stories of where we served need to come out. You know what I mean? And the British West Indies Regiment Foundation Trust have got big plans for the future. I've been lucky. I've actually been to Africa. I've been to Kenya. I've seen the graves of West Indians serving in the First World War. The graves all over the world, everywhere. You wouldn't think so, but we have served everywhere you think of. And the sad thing about it, for the African side of things, the difference between how there's more commemoration around the Caribbean and African, going back to your question, is because a lot of Caribbeans were Christian, Africans weren't seen as Christian. A lot of Africans who died were buried in mass graves. And that's a big issue. I mean, David Olusoga made a programme about this years and years ago, highlighting that there was a clear policy. If you were Christian...
Deliberate policy.
Huh?
Say? It was a deliberate policy.
It was a deliberate policy. If you died and you weren't a Christian, you weren't given the proper... no headstone, no nothing at all.
If you was a Christian, you said?
Sorry? Seriously, that is, they're trying to rectify that, but a lot, too many people served during the First World War. Over 2 million people were involved in the First World War in Africa. Yeah, not just soldiers, but women were involved because whole villages moved to different war fronts. That is not even recognised. And the reason why a lot of African countries don't recognise that, they draw that line. They don't want to acknowledge that past at all. You know what I mean? So when countries became independent, they just simply did not want to talk about the veterans that served during the Second World War. You know what I mean?
Most people don't know the first shots of World War I were in Africa,
Yeah.
and the last shots.
Yeah, we're in Africa, in Tanzania. I know, in Tanzania. Yeah.
I'm going in the order that I'm seeing hands. So this gentleman had his hand up.
Yeah, I'm interested. It's interesting that the film is that old, and we all know that the ignorance still continues to this day. Speaking to the two people that brought this up as well, the guy behind and the lady over here. I mean, the armed forces, of course, there are very few of those that are actually. It takes a lot to go back into all of those stories and trace them back down to that. But speaking to what the other guy said, if the stories are there, why is it that the families, because we've already lost so many of the elders and other, sort of subsequent generations and whatever, I think it would be easier to go back to the families to tell the stories of their fathers and mothers who actually served in that. So I wondered if there's any initiative to actually take the people that you already know about, but go back to the families in order to get it back into the schools and onto the curriculum.
Well, Beulah's doing it. Other people are doing it. But, I mean, I think there's a deeper question, Max, about that. I think it's only been relatively, it's only been the last 20, 30 years that ex-service personnel feel the confidence to tell their stories that I've served. Because prior to that, people shunned them. That's a reality. So it's going to take more. It's going to take more work. And what was interesting doing that film, I asked that question with the young people. If there was would you have served in the Second World War? All the young people said, no problem. Second World War, Hitler, fascism, yeah, I'm there. Iraq War, I'm not sure. Afghanistan, not sure. No way. So there's a big issue about young people and how they see war and conflict, and how they see how they see international conflict, how it's played out.
Is it the young people have a problem with it, or is it that the use of the armed forces has become much less morally unambiguous?
That's a good question.
But even Norma said.
Yeah, you are not. Norma was very diplomatic.
Said, like, I wouldn't be as comfortable serving.
Well, precisely. I mean, basically said no. I mean, if you ask her, if you pushed her, she said, of course I served in the Second World War. I'll do it again and again and again. Same with Esther. I'll do it again and again. These kind of conflicts.
She had a conscience.
So?
She would say that it was a decision based on good thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But is it trust with people nowadays? So that's the thing.
If you look what's happened again internationally, and you can maybe incorporate on this, particularly the army, have had to go to the Commonwealth to recruit, even more so. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you can, and look what happened to the Gurkhas until Joanne Lumley stepped in. No, seriously, that was what, 10 years ago, 12 years ago? Something like that. And so that's part of the problem. The part of the problem is young people don't want to serve in the armed forces in this country, but they recruited young people from elsewhere in the Commonwealth to join, basically.
I think they need to feel valued and acknowledged, and it's not happening because it's like you serve, you're a foot soldier, you're dispersible, so if something happens, I will get another one. Rather than acknowledged, because if they're up to, because it's a very classist system, isn't it, with status, to do, well, my family was lord and lady, whatnot. Yeah. But the little foot soldiers, they're not interested.
Yeah. Well, if you watch Blackadder, have you seen Blackadder? And how they caricature. It kind of reflects that. She's been very patient. You've been very, very patient. I know.
There's other people.
I'm sorry. You're in charge.
I'm not saying it's not you. I hadn't spotted you. But then it's you and it's you, sir.
No, what I was going to say is that war these days is much more complex. In the Second World War, you had one enemy, Hitler, basically. So, once he went, then the Second World War was over. Now you've got Afghanistan. You've got so many different, Al Qaeda, IS, all of those things. So, it's not just one enemy. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you were saying about the young not wanting to join. Well, you hear all these scare stories, the newspaper headings about, the bullying and what have you. And despite the guy that, I don't know what his name was, he said there was a lot of camaraderie, but then there's a lot of bullying as well. And even now the young girl that was attacked, that's going to put a lot of women off joining the army, isn't it? It's quite complex.
Yeah.
Just a statement, not.
We hear you.
I wanted to just ask you in terms of how has the recognition of black soldiers over the last 10 to 15 years, has it improved now? Do you see that the mainstream in terms of the armed forces as a whole be more receptive and recognise the contribution of African and Caribbean people within the armed forces, and also the wider public? Just going back to a presentation that Tony did last year, I think it was last year or this year, in regards to the film Blitz by Steve McQueen, which looked at the black people within the First World War. and the level of backlash that came from the wider British public in regards to that particular representation. There was a lot of negative backlash towards that particular film. I just want to get your opinion in terms of how things have improved or not improved, and what can be done about it. So.
It's interesting because I was at, I was part of the trip that went to Belgium, France, and not only were there just like people interested to pay our respects, there were how many service personnel were there? Would you say? Half of service. Yeah, personnel. Some of them like junior, but there were some people who were colonels, captains. But half of them, yeah.
It was a brigadier.
And there's I read a black brigadier too. That's serious. Oh, but black brigadier.
Some of us don't know what that means. It's like, it sounds very important.
It's very senior role, very senior role, very senior role. But what struck me was talking to those. The young people, the younger members who were there, who joined there, they aspirationally they want to get to the top. Number one, and there are some people at the top. But what was concerned me, quite a few more are retiring, and the question is who's going to be the future brigadiers? That's my concern. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's going to be the future brigadiers? Because the men and women that they've done 20 years to get, 25 years to get to, 30 years to get there, you know. Will the young people have that staying power to be there for 30 years? I don't know.
The same racism that we have in workplaces, in civilian life, nurses, offices, where black women, men struggle to get promotion, it's exactly the same in the army. There's a deliberate ploy to keep us back. Because we are, I believe, superior.
Yeah, but they're a bit nervous, aren't they? They're scared.
Absolutely.
Same strategy as the BFI by the sound of it.
Actually, it's a good point. No, seriously, can you just tell, because some of the stuff you talked about documentation, digitization, promotion, production, etc., this stuff should have been done by the BFI 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So people know about this film, can actually go to the archive and research and watch it. It should have been shown.
Yeah.
Should have been shown every year since that time, right? So can you just tell us, just briefly, what is the 2010 Public Duty Equality Act, and how does it affect the race equality impact assessment which they should have done? If you want to tell us about that a little bit, please.
Okay, so this is a technical question that Tony asking me about what the BFI should be doing, along with other institutions that should be doing, which they're not doing that. Just if I can give an answer which covers your question, Tony. We've got the best legislation in the Western Hemisphere around tackling racism, structural racism, through public sector equality duty, a whole range of statutory rules and regulations and enforcement and penalties, but not been implemented. So we've got the best. Ironically, this is the 60th anniversary of the 1965 Race Relations Act. And the Act stuff wasn't that brilliant, but that led to the 68 Act, led to the 1976 Act, and then other legislation came, the Equal Pay Act, etc., etc., etc. So we've got the best legislation in the statute books for the BFI and other institutions, including the armed forces, to implement effectively proper race equality and equality legislation. But it's not been implemented. Why is it not implemented? A whole variety of reasons why it's not been implemented.
Is it mostly structural racism?
Now, as an academic, you tell me. As a researcher, what's your...
This is really not my area of expertise. Talk to me about the 19th century Caribbean. Or the 1930s.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I'm being facetious.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, you are being facetious, aren't you? No, but anyway, no, but seriously, so I think...
We use the fact it's the 60th anniversary of the 65 Race Relations Act that was specifically about public places, like cinemas, like pubs. So couldn't that be used as an extra lever?
We could do, but the problem, we're in this situation, going back to your question about the Steve McQueen film, that film was seen as woke. Black people weren't in the Blitz. Black people weren't in Britain at that time. So how dare you even... The Blitz is a pure it's a pure kind of thing of where it was just white people against, it was just white people living there. But we've been here 2,000 years. Of course there were black people in the Blitz. There were people involved in a whole variety of roles during the Second World War. You know, never least just black people who are already in the UK, never least people come from the Caribbean serving, or from Africa serving, or from other parts of the world serving as well. They want to create this myopic image of, it's a bit like, you know, the classic programme on the BBC. What about the nurses? What was it called? Save the Midwives. Yeah, but there were black nurses there from right from the beginning, and then they were forced. The BBC were forced to have one black nurse just to demonstrate that black nurses were around. They're trying to create this image that we didn't exist. We weren't here, but we will always have been here. Yeah.
Vernon wrote about it, didn't he? At the end of Black, White, Skin and White Mask, he talks about no, not that one. He talks about when he was serving in the Second World War. Sorry, I forget the text. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to do that, but I have to go on the text. Franz Fanon talks about it in his text about being demobilized just before the end of World War II, because when they go to liberate the troops in Paris, because France has been occupied by the Nazis, de Gaulle wants it to appear that even though most of the soldiers that have been fighting in the French army at that stage have been black, that actually France has been liberated by white people, and they deliberately demobilized the vast majority of their army at that time. So in some ways, it's that curation, that vision that de Gaulle had back in 1944 is not a new thing. It's merely an echo of the same thing. So you've been so patient, but I can see you and you and you.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, Patrick, thank you for what you've done. I came here not expecting this presentation, and it's been very enlightening, so thank you for all the work that you've done over the years. The one thing that really impacted me writing the video was the gentleman who served and didn't get his medal.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if after 15 years with all his...
Has he got his medal? He hasn't got his medal.
Say that again?
No, he hasn't got his medal.
He hasn't got it yet?
No. So I'm not familiar with the protocol around the whole stuff around, because he said that because he was in a firefight, he saved some men. His command officer said he did a fantastic job. You deserve a medal. Right. That's what he was told, but it was never translated to anything else. And so I know he got lawyers involved. There were letters going backwards and forwards. I did see some of the letters, but the problem is that it goes into purdah. It just gets lost in the system, because obviously they weren't going to give him the medal in the first place. Sheikh Thompson, who was a counsellor in Haringey, passed away some years ago, and he served in the US army. He saw him shake his head, and he said, yeah, "Because you weren't born here." But obviously, we know that Harry, he got a Victoria Cross, and there's only 2 black people ever have received Victoria Crosses, yeah, and he's the second one, basically. And and there is an issue, I think, about giving recognition for people who have served in those situations. You know what I mean? Why is it that only, if you compare to other Southeast Asian communities, there's lots of VCs. Why is it in terms of there's been no Africans got VC. It's been Caribbean people who got VC. So, but there's more Africans serving. Burma, there should have been at least 5 VCs for people serving in Burma. Nothing. It's almost like they played down, not even giving that honour, that recognition, at least. It's mean. Mary Seacole, you see images of Mary Seacole. She got these images of Victoria Cross. She never got one. I think but when she had the portraits done, that's what she wanted, because she should have had a Victoria Cross like Florence Nightingale. She got nothing.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have a kind of different perspective from a lot of people here, because I'm a former secondary ed teacher, and so I always have this kind of phrase in my head. This every time you point the finger, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. So I've heard a lot of people saying, or specifically to Patrick, are you going to do the movie of this? Are you going to do this? And really the 3 fingers should be pointing back at yourself, thinking, what can I do? And as well, this narrative of that the young people are basically going to forget, because the elders are going to pass away. they would have kept them away from the information. And meanwhile, this legend here has put in to GCSE curriculums now. Because people say, why is this not in the curriculum? But he's put into the curriculum a whole module from the edXL exam board, which is called Migrants in History. I'm going to let you talk about it in a minute. But as black people, we should be not asking, not suggesting, but instructing our children that when you choose a secondary school for your child, it must only be a school that is using that curriculum so that those children can learn about black people in World War I and World War II and have this Black British history. That's on us. To not suggest, to not recommend, but to instruct our child. I'm giving you an order. The same way that my mum would tell me to do something, I'm just going to do it. And I'm grown. Just tell your children, don't choose a school for your child unless it's got that module, and they must do it. When it comes to option time, that's not an option. They must do it. That's the only way we're going to, because I get tired of hearing about they should be doing for us, the government should be doing. Schools are businesses. They are not service industries. They're businesses and they run for profit. That's why now it's 5 GCSEs, A star to C. Now like 9 to 4, the grades. Whereas when I was at school, I'm scared to say in my day because it just makes you sound so old. But everyone came out with 10 O levels as standard because you had to do history or geography. That was your choice. You can choose one of the two, but you got to do one. You had to choose a language. You can choose which one, but you had to do one. Now you don't have to do them. So the standards have been dropped by half to say, you know, I'm talking too long, but my point is the onus should be on us to tell our generation, the next generation, what to do so that they can put it on TikTok and Instagram and all those things which we don't know how to use so well. And it's just standard for them. They can do it in 20 seconds.
Also in the school, when they were in the school, you can actually stipulate that it should be added into the curriculum anyway.
Well, all of us should be governors for the schools in our local area so that we are instructing the teachers what you have to teach. All of those black literature books that people fought for, as Patrick said, all of the fights have actually happened so that the legislation is there, but because they know that we're not being active, they can just say, well, but you're here.
Yeah, I'm paying now,
Yeah.
but prior to that, I'm
Right.
grown now, but I wasn't aware.
And the next event that either Patrick puts on or Tony Warner puts on, we don't just come. We bring someone who didn't know as well. We bring a friend. That's on us. So we say, I'm going to bring someone that didn't know.
And what you can also is you can all hopefully sign the petition if you're not done it already. Sign and tell a friend or tell 3 friends. And you can write to the BFI and say, listen, BFI, I just saw this guy Patrick here, all these fantastic films. What are you doing to empower him to tell these stories? Because that's what they're there for. So sign the petition, tell a friend, and you can right now email BFI and say, what's happening with African Odysseys? Why is it not still there? Because this whole thing would have been there, but for their racism.
Tony, how do we find out about your curriculum?
Just go to blackhistorywatch.co.uk and it's all listed right there. The books, all the books are there. blackhistorywatch.co.uk.
Yeah, I've got 2 quick questions for Patrick. In the spirit of the time that we're in, Halloween, bonfire, etc.
Oh, yes.
This young lady, and obviously you're a filmmaker, you make documentaries, and I'm channeling the flavour of Ryan Coogler who made Sinners, so I'm thinking about vampires.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah.
This lady, she was knocking about. She claims that she joined the service in 1971. Can you confirm that she's not a vampire?
No, I can verify that because we were on the No, she's gone. I know she's gone now. No, she. Say?
Is she too when she joined?
No.
She's not a vampire.
She's not a vampire. I can verify that because we were on the coach in the daytime and I didn't see anything. I didn't see the body shrivel or anything like that.
The second quick question for you. It wasn't in relation to the military service, etc.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 100, the BFI and the 100 black icons.
Yeah.
Just as a teenage boy asking the question for a friend, was Pam Grier in there by any chance?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, of course she was. Yeah. So
You never told us who won, by the way.
Oh, okay. So how I constructed the campaign, it was similar to how I did 100 Great Black Britons. We had 100 names overall, and then we had separate categories for men and women, and then we had film. So we had about 4 people could vote for different categories. So if I can remember, the overall winner was Sidney Poitier. He was the overall winner.
He was number 2.
Huh?
He was number 2.
I'll have to look at my notes. I'll have to look at that.
Top 10, he should have done.
Say?
Bill Cosby was in the top 10.
Huh?
Bill Cosby?
In the 70s.
Before, like, Dorothy Dandridge, for example.
Bill,
Cameron.
So a lot of the African Americans were up there because obviously they've been able because they've made more films and more exposure, etc. But in terms of so when we launched the results, we did a special film screen at the BFI. Again, this is why it's important. In terms of campaigns, really important, and the BFI, credit to them, we decided to show the film How They Come. They actually paid and brought over the director of the film, who's passed away now, and that film, How They Come was one of those. It's a fantastic. I know it's a play. It's Stratford East now, isn't it? As a play, but the film itself was a powerful film because that was the first film that really showed what was Jamaican society like in terms of the colorism, the politics, all that kind of stuff that was in there. And it was a difficult film for him to make. He didn't get the support and when the film came out. People shunned the film in Jamaica. They shunned it. It's only because it was shown around the world, and particularly in the UK, that it's now seen as a cult film. But at the time, it wasn't seen as a cult film. So we decided to bring the film for a new audience, and it was really great to meet him, the film director, who made the film basically out of his own pocket, to be quite honest. And that's why it's important for institutions like BFI. I mean, obviously BFI will turn around and say, have said to us and said to Tony, of course we're still doing black stuff. Yes, they are doing it, but is it in the way that the Film Odysseys is doing? Because they curate, they have a panel, we look at films. Let's show the best of films in around the diaspora and globally of the black experience, basically. How can we get new talent? If your film's not been done by a mainstream production house, your film's not going to be shown in the BFI. My film was not. I made that film myself, commissioned myself. There's lots of filmmakers who want the platform and opportunity, and if you haven't been commissioned by them, by the Channel 4 or a production company, it's not going to be shown. End of. You know what I mean? So we're going to show it. Yeah, you can show it in a community centre in East London, but we should be reclaiming these spaces.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One of the things I'm really proud of at History on Film is that we've been very diligent about inviting independent filmmakers to use the space and featuring independent film. One of the biggest films we did this year.
Speak up.
Oh, sorry. I said one of the things I'm personally quite proud of with the History on Film series is that we've been very diligent about inviting independent black filmmakers to screen their films. One of the biggest screenings that we did that was, I think, probably one of the most successful screenings as well. Last year was Fearless, which was a documentary by, I'm going to get his surname wrong, but Damien and Noella.
Mingo. Mingo.
That was screened last year, and this year was a film called Sugar Island, which we screened it in January this year, and since then it has gone around the world on a bunch of us. Huh?
Where was it screened?
In here, this here cinema.
This is the first I've ever seen.
Welcome.
It just popped up. I'm not seen it. I don't know how it just popped up.
Yeah. And it's funny hearing you talk about the How Do They Come, because History on Film, I don't mind sharing, is an iteration of a series that I first ran when I worked in. History on Film is an iteration of a film series I ran when I worked in Guadeloupe.
Oh, really?
And we screened, it's called History on Film.
Yeah.
Else there. But the concept came from working with filmmakers and a film collective, actually. It was the Caribbean civil makers in the Caribbean. And one of the first films we screened with them was The Harder They Come. Yeah. And it was really powerful because we, obviously in Guadeloupe, it was subtitled in French. Because it's a French-speaking space, a Creole-speaking space. But people were really moved by it. People talked about it for a very long time. Yeah. And was so excited about the next film screening, which was due to take place in March 2020.
Okay then.
So that film series died a death.
So what's your name and what's your role? I don't know if you introduced yourself before, but who are you?
Rob. Who are you, Rob?
Rob.
My official title, according to the government, is Dr. Keswa John. I'm a historian. I specialise in 20th century Caribbean history. I teach here at Goldsmiths. I look after the MA in Black British history. I have a particular interest in film history, particularly black film history. I was an alumni of the African Odysseys programme circa 2009. An alumni of the... I graduated from a 10-week course on 50 years of Black British history, Black British presence on film and TV that African Odysseys ran in January to March, April 2009, which was a total game changer for me. It was the first time I saw films like Sapphire, Flaming Streets, which I've since subsequently programmed over and over again myself. But that's partly why I was so keen to support the campaign, because I think the work they did was fantastic. And I made friends there that I'm still friends with now, filmmakers, films. Is it?
Yeah.
I feel like I forget. Yeah, so does that answer the question, or should I keep going?
No, that's nice to know, because I mean, you've been hosting everything, kind of thinking, who is this?
So I run a film series here at Goldsmiths called History on Film, and we collaborate with them as well to run the documentary series. History on Film works in a very similar way. We screen a film, we always have a Q&A afterwards, typically with an academic who can speak to some of the issues raised, because we focus on feature films that are talking to a historical event or actually historical. Please join the mailing list if you haven't already. black@gold.ac.uk.
And it's going to be here on a regular basis?
Every month. The next one we're running is in December, a Korean film called 1212 The Day. And it's about coup in South Korea. I'm very excited.
There's actually 2 films in December.
Sorry, you're right. There are 2 films in December. The next History on Films only narrative is 1212 The Day, this Korean film. But our next African Aussie film is Injustice, documentary.
And that's a good point, because Patrick said that you might see black films at the BFI, but what you're seeing there is a white middle-class version of black history, because they're not showing the grassroots film. So the film we're showing on the 5th of December is called Injustice. It's all about deaths in police custody. And you'll have Janet Alder, whose brother was killed in police custody up in Hull, etc., in 1998, speaking about what the police are doing, how the police react to kind of deaths in custody, etc. And that's sort of film that we used to show at the BFI that are no longer being shown there. So that tells me all I need to know when it comes to what sort of films being shown. Because bearing in mind, they were just talking about the 5th anniversary of George Floyd. They did not show any kind of deaths in custody films, and there's a bunch of films like that out there. So this is this problem we have now. You can get some sort of false whitewash version of black history, or you can get a grassroots version, and we want to have the grassroots version at a place with the resources to actually promote the stuff out there.
You've been so patient.
So going back to the topic of World War II, there is often a simplified version of Britain was this very brave little island fighting up against and holding the fort when France had already capitulated and everything else. And France I'm half French, and there is absolutely this notion that they forget about the colonies that helped precisely to liberate France. And instead, what we have go down in our history is that it is the civilians that saved us, right? And this is one thing I wanted to... la résistance. And this is what I wanted to ask you about. Tonight we talked a lot about the soldiers and the men and women who serve, but what about the civilians? Because in many countries, the civilians are actually lauded as the heroes of wars. And I know that with wars come a lot of trauma. So for instance, when I married into a Nigerian family, and I was educating myself, every time I went to read a book and I was like, okay, to my mother-in-law, I read Half a Yellow Sun. Did you experience this in the Biafran War? It opened up a dialogue that I think the family wasn't having because there was so much trauma. And there's respect to, I don't want to bring this up for you. But also, I think there is a lot of this idea that it stays within the family, right? So how do we help the older generations, current generations to deal with that so that we can then get these stories out there? Because I don't think it's just the soldier stories, it's also the civilians who went through these conflicts who have a lot to offer. So I don't know, I'm just literally, give me ideas, because I just went in and almost clumsily just like, did you experience air raids? And it started conversations, but it's not
Yeah.
It's not that straightforward.
No, it's not straightforward. So just to answer your question, so in the film, which was touched on, and also my other film I made, which is A Charmed Life, which Eddie Martinoma goes into great detail about this, about his experiences and what he saw, is remember, during the Second World War, definitely from the Caribbean side, yeah, there were German submarines going around the Caribbean. They were trying to stop the supply chains, basically, because the Caribbean and South America were providing lots of money, food and produce, which has not been talked about at all. Vince talked about it very briefly. It was estimated as equivalent of £2 million worth of aid that the Caribbean was given to Britain to help during the war. The money was used to help the bombers in terms, as well as food produce as well. So, you know, but that bit's not talked about, that actually the colonies supplied money and materials and supplies supporting the war effort. So that was a billion. Sorry?
Can I intervene here? Just
Sure, yeah.
If you're interested in that, you should read The Caribbean and the Second World War, a book by Colin Douglas, published last year by Lawrence and Wisher.
Okay, fine, yeah. Okay, there you go.
The Caribbean and the Second World War by Colin Douglas, published last year by Lawrence and Wishart.
And he's giving a lecture on the 9th of November, Sunday, for free, online.
This Sunday.
Yeah. So that was a civilian contribution. The war front didn't take place in the Caribbean itself directly. Obviously, it happened mainly in Europe, basically, and the Far East. So it's going to be always the stories of people who served in those conflicts. But civilians did play their part, which is not really being recognised as well. But another history, which I'm really interested in, going back to war, which is when Italy invaded Abyssinia in 1935-36, and that was a bloody war. In the sense that there were a lot of civilians that were Ethiopians died during that side, and that story's not been told. That story of the war is just and that was a forerunner to the Second World War, basically. And they always annex what happened with Haile Selassie and Mussolini separately from what was happening with Hitler. But it was all connected, because the League of Nations broke down because all the European powers allowed Italy they gave Italy the permission to take over Abyssinia, or Ethiopia, as it was then called. But in 1943, you had a combination of African soldiers, Indian soldiers, under the British leadership, that reclaimed back Abyssinia, or Ethiopia. That whole story. I mean, I've done stuff. I did do a screen again, going back to Odyssey again. We did a screen. Were you there? We did a special screening of a film that was made by an Italian filmmaker who captured that story. Again, that's why we need African Odyssey.
One of the reasons why the first victory in the Second World War was the East Africa campaign, where they took Ethiopia, was because black people made a big fuss about it. In the 1930s, that was one of the biggest, if not the absolute biggest issue that united people in the Caribbean, in America, across Africa, and they would not stop campaigning on behalf of Ethiopia. When Europe wished to kind of say it's done, it's finished, they were like, no, this war's not over. And they sent ambulances, and they tried to serve on the side of Ethiopia, because many people wrote letters to say they'd like to rescind their citizenship, to pause it. They consider themselves to be Africans, and they want to fight along the emperor.
There was a big movement in Harlem as well.
It was one of the biggest. It was the biggest thing in that period.
Yeah, you're quite right. And one of my projects I'm working on right now is Jamaican historian J.A. Rogers. Mm-hmm. He was a war correspondent. He worked for the Pittsburgh Courier and the New Amsterdam Times. He went into Ethiopia in 1935, covered the war for 2 African American newspapers, went on the front line, interviewed Haile Selassie, and one of my personal projects before I drop my clogs, which I'm working on, is to follow his journey. He left Harlem in 1935, got a boat to France, went from France to Egypt, from Egypt he went to Sudan, he went to Abyssinia stroke Eritrea as we know it. I want to cover that journey. And he reported in the newspaper, and he wrote a pamphlet called The Real Facts of Ethiopia, basically. And his reporting also contributed to that galvanisation as well. So that's another history that we don't even know about, which is really important.
I don't know if you're next, but you put your hand up. Go.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, because I just wanted to go on for it because I work for the Associated Press. I work in their archive, right? And basically we've got lots of content from the overseas film and television archive.
Yeah.
Which is was followed on from the Colonial Film Unit.
Yeah.
And so it's got like so much undigitized material from Haile Selassie going to Kingston, the Lion Judah film.
Yeah.
We've got one of the first videos of Scar. So this is Scar.
Yeah.
And then we've got things on Uganda, with Idi Amin, and it goes for India. So there's a lot of things where we're actually trying to promote this to filmmakers to use the material. In
But
fact,
does it come with a price though?
it does come with a price. It does come with a price if you have to digitise it.
So,
yeah.
So can you do rates, mates?
I do. Now that you're here.
Yeah.
I do make friends with people I've met and I like.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
He also knows people at the BFI, by the way. The
I know some people, curators at the BFI, who I can talk to about the African Odyssey.
Yeah.
See if there's something that they can do as well about this. And also on my other hat as well, I work for Focal International, so I'm on a board member, Focal International, and that's our industry body for archives.
Oh, really?
So what they do is that they provide, links to post-production houses for digitization, training and mentorship for people who want to get into the industry. We also deal with, seminars and also award shows as well for various different documentaries that use archive material in there. And then also, we can help link with various different kind of industry bodies and various different companies as well. So we work with production companies as well. So it would be good, if we can get in contact because we.
We're definitely.
He's mostly a big history geek, though. So just so you know, there you go.
Okay.
So it's something that we can work with because I'm on the board, and one of the things that I got elected onto the board was to help with diversity because there's a lot of lack of diversity when it comes in the media and also in the archive industry, but behind the camera.
Yeah.
So
no, that's really great to hear that because when I made my first film, A Charmed Life, I used lots of film archives from the Imperial War Museum, loads of archives, and that was I knew there was more available, and I've seen stuff. When you do a Google search, you see other stuff, but they're charging exorbitant rates.
Yeah.
So how are you going to help filmmakers with a budget who could use that film? And often you have to reinterpret the film stuff because remember, some of that film stuff is dodgy. Dodgy in terms of
why it's recorded.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a good example. I've worked closely with National Archives in Kew. They digitised. They got it from the old Colonial Office. They had about 5,000 images of Africa. So and they asked me, can you look at all these images and choose which ones were appropriate that they could stick on their website? I looked at all of it and said half of them you can't even put on the website. They were just bordering on eroticism, naked women, dodgy stuff. I said you can't put that stuff online, and they didn't do it because the way we didn't have power of the camera. They told the story how they thought that we were. So we've got to reclaim that.
This is what's so good about the overseas film television archive, is that basically they were trained in the UK in terms of camera techniques, but they went back to the countries, like various different colonies, so like in Nigeria, etc., and filmed what was going on themselves.
Yeah.
So even filming, like one of them, they filmed at my mum's former school, Queen's School in Amugu, when some of the royal family came over, and it was actually the camera. So it's kind of their voices. It's still got links to Britain because there's obviously there's an obligation in terms of you got trained by British people.
Yeah.
But there is it is mostly their own local voices of the various different people.
Yes.
And I can see what you mean because we also look after British Movie Tone collection.
Oh really?
Yes, and newsreels.
Do you have stuff linked to America then?
We do have stuff linked to America.
We need to talk because
we have to talk.
we need to talk because.
So for that one, they've got stuff like where it's very I don't know if anyone remembers Harry Enfield and Friends, Mr. Chumley Warner.
Yeah.
So he's got the kind of voice, Mr. Chumley Warner.
Yeah.
And he's talking about pick-knees and
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And a couple of N words were in there as well. But we have to put a disclaimer because we can't change history. Because if we start changing the voice of it, then we're going to sanitize what's
preserve it as
happened.
it is, but you
Yeah.
can't-
I want the images, not the voice.
Yeah,
They can
yeah.
keep the voice.
This gentleman have actually been waving at me wildly. I can
Yes.
see you.
Okay, yeah. If Tony and yourself and the people here could train me with a camera and whatnot, I've got lots of time. I've got a bit of time to volunteer. Someone like yourself.
So you're offering your services?
Yeah.
Okay,
I did
okay.
a documentary.
You're a filmmaker?
I did a documentary like.
Are you a filmmaker?
Yeah.
Just say yes. Are you a filmmaker?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. well, let's exchange details, yeah.
I think on that happy note, you had your hand up for a long time. I knew there was a few hands I didn't capture. Please go ahead.
I noticed on Voice Online that a row has erupted about Windrush Square this Sunday that the MOD wants to take over.
It's a bit complicated than that. It's a bit. You've seen the article about. So it's still happening. So Sunday, Remembrance Sunday, Windrush Square in Brixton. There've been lots of stuff. So Nubian Jack had the African Caribbean War Memorial, which was unveiled some years ago, and then they've had for the last 4 or 5 years. He's organised in partnership with the council, the MOD. And you know, a memorial, but it's got heated because there's lots of stuff happening. I mean, I've seen both sides. I heard from his side and I've heard from the other side. I just hope that Sunday will be respectful and people can work together and put aside. You know, it's about remembrance, not about politics of remembrance, which is different. We can. This is about politics of remembrance, but we need to recognise kind of remembrance, particularly because our stories have never been acknowledged. It's just sad that we have to fight about who's got the biggest voice for our stories when our stories have always been suppressed for such a long time. So I'm going to be there Sunday. I'll be there supporting, give my respect, etc. It'd be great if you all can be there to be there as well. That'd be really great.
Thank you very
But
much.
it's not straightforward as you read. That's what I can say.
I'll say something. There was a lady you had your hand. The lady with that, yeah. I'm interested to know what you
Go for it. Sorry. Do you know what? This hasn't been my best moderation moment.
No, you're doing good, girl. You're doing good.
Forgive me if I missed you.
I have a few questions. One was thankfully asked already. And I was going to just add to the conversation. I work in the NHS, and from a mental health perspective, for veterans, they actually have implemented this new training. Everything takes so long in the NHS, but they're requiring 1 out of every 10 managers to do training, basically to recognize certain there's like higher risks for certain things with like health-wise with veterans, and that there's a whole training for it. So it's at least going in the right direction. That's one thing. The second thing is, thank you for the change. I'm going to definitely sign that. But I think one of the things that's really nice is that Instagram, and there are short videos, and like for example, I follow some people on that help me explore different race. Like I am of mixed race background, not black, obviously. But like that's one of the reasons why, and especially I work in the NHS where systemic racism is very prevalent. So I'm always trying to educate myself, and that's why I follow this like activists online. I think that would be maybe a good way. I'm not sure how you promote your events, but that would be a good way to do it using social media. But I was also going to ask you, because you like hosted this event, you've been very helpful in making it happen. I am recognizing there's a lack of maybe like student presence, but if I'm correct, Portsmouth is a school.
It's the university, you're correct.
Yeah.
This is Reading Week. There's no students on campus.
But even still, there must be a lot in the area, and so I'm just wondering if there was a way that you get, like, are you reaching out to the younger generations? Because I think that's one of the things we're talking about is...
I'll take that critique on the chin, and I'll say in response that You asked me a question. History on Film is open to students, but it is not a student-facing intended event. It's deliberately curated as a community-focused event. It's designed to bring people onto campus who are not typically on campus.
How we heard about it.
So if there are no students, it doesn't bother me. If there are students, they're always welcome. But it's not. There's lots of things that happen on campus for students to campus. And you'll see on the door, there's a whole cinema dedicated to them and their interests. Yeah, so, and also it was never going to happen this week because it's.
Let me give you a little secret, right? This is a 100-seat cinema. 224 people told me they were coming to this event today. Actually, 242. 242 said they were coming, and this is what we get. So sometimes people know about it, but for whatever reason, they don't come out of the house. But 242 said they were going to come here.
So can I just add to this discussion? So I represent an organisation called the African and Caribbean Students Network. So that's why I'm here. Bit of backstory, I met Tony back in 2007, I think it was, when I was the ACS president at Essex University. And I was, very pleased to host him there to speak to the ACS, and it was a fantastic, eye-opening, historical event. So that spurred me on to actually, create this organisation to unify all ACSs within UK university. So I'm actually filming this event to go on our media channel. We host podcasts. We're developing this, obviously, by hook or by crook, we'll get to the mass attrition that we want to get. But I say that to say, these are the kind of conversations that are happening. It is happening. We will try and, bridge that gap. We have a 3-stage plan to actually, have ACS alumni once they go on from
I'm ACS
ACS.
I was a social secretary Leicester 23-24. No, that's a lie. 03-04.
So we want to have that network because obviously, united we stand, divided we fall. If we can't have a network and an infrastructure to be able to feed back into the youth and the people that are going to go through the same journey that we've been through, these kind of things will keep happening. Where it's, how do we reach out to the youth? How do we retain our stories? How do we make sure there's a platform for the really young to actually not go through the same pitfalls? How are we measuring this, etc., etc.? I won't take up too much of your time, but I just wanted to say that it's happening, and that's the organisation that I represent as well.
I mean, I'll add to that like as a historian, it's literally my job to teach the youth. So, and I'm not the only historian in the country. I'm only back one with the title I have in London, but I'm not the only one in the country. There's a core of us, slowly but surely. The UK history profession is famously 93% white.
Oh,
It's something like it's ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's just.
So
I think our
maybe
community.
unicorn guys enjoy this moment.
Sorry, I'll keep writing, but I think our community actually, to somewhat, doesn't appreciate the value in education and educators like yourself, because the revolution and the change that we need to see within our community is undoubtedly spurred by education and knowledge. So that's what you guys are doing, and it's hats off to you guys. Literally.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Can I just do a shout out? Beulah's at the back, and the daughter's here, and she's got copies of a book about her Uncle Robert. Fantastic price, good value for money. Please, reach out. She's just there.
On that happy note, buy a book. The event was free. And we'll do it again next month. I look forward to seeing you again. Welcome to Goldsmiths. It's the first time. If not, nice to see you again. I'll see you again.
Yeah, and thank you very much for coming out, everyone. Thank you. And Tony, thank you, man. Yeah.